So let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Sergio Leone was a genius on many levels. The Man with No Name trilogy is probably one of the best international releases of all time, even though it starred a lot of our American actors like Lee Van Cleef, Clint Eastwood, and Eli Wallach. But when he attempted a crime movie in the 1980s, everybody was highly anticipating a great release. But the machinations involved with the movie eventually got no Golden Globe nominations, no Oscar nominations, despite having Robert De Niro, James Woods, Tuesday Weld, Burt Young, and other key actors in the cast. It's called Once Upon a Time in America. Now, this 84 epic, there's many versions. One is more than 4 hours long. One's about 3 hours, nearly 4 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes long. And there's a truncated American release. It was co-written, directed by, again, the Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone, and starred Robert De Niro and James Woods as the two key protagonists. Now, this is an Italian-American venture produced by the Ladd Company, Embassy International Pictures, PSO Enterprises, and Raflan, and distributed by Warner Brothers. Based on the popular Harry Gray novel The Hoods, it chronicles the lives of best friends David Noodles Aronson and Maximilian Max Berkovich as they lead a group of Jewish ghetto youths who rise to prominence as Jewish gangsters in New York City's world of organized crime in the 1920s and 30s. The film explores themes of childhood friendships, love, lust, greed, betrayal, loss, and broken relationship, together with the rise of mobsters in American society. Now, there's flashbacks in the movie, there's multiple plots going on, but the main thing is the relationships between the De Niro and Woods character. And they have a lot of shared interests, including the luminous Tuesday Weld. Now, this was the final film directed by Leone before his death 5 years later, and the first feature film he had directed in 13 years. It's also the third installment of Leone's Once Upon a Time trilogy, which includes Once Upon a Time in the West in 1968 and Duck You Sucker in 1971. The cinematography was by Antonio Delle Colli, and the film scored by the great Ennio Morricone. Leone originally envisaged 2 3-hour films, then a single 269-minute, 4-hour and 29-minute version, but was convinced by distributors to shorten it to 229 minutes, which is 3 hours and 49 minutes. The American distributors, the Ladd Company, further shortened it to 2 hours and 19 minutes, and to rearrange the scenes in the chronological order without Leone's involvement. So it was a box office bomb, ladies and gentlemen, whatever version it was. There's 4 different versions: the 269-minute version, original runtime, the 259-minute version that appeared at Cannes in re-release in 2012, the standard runtime of 229, and the American release of 139. $30 million from 1984, ladies and gentlemen, with only $5.5 million at the box office. Now, the U.S. edit was a critical and commercial flop in the States, and critics who have seen both versions harshly condemned the changes made. The original European cut has remained a critical favorite and frequently appears in lists of the greatest films of all time, especially in the gangster genre. The last 30 minutes of the movie version I've seen most frequently are much filler, but the early and middle parts are quite strong, especially with the flashbacks to the original youngsters that were in the Jewish gangs. Now, in the 1930s, 3 thugs search for a man called Noodles. Noodles is drugging himself in an opium den with a newspaper next to him, featuring the deaths of bootleggers Patrick Goldberg, Philip Stein, and Maximilian Berkovitz. He recalls the police removing their corpse, one burned beyond recognition. Noodles evades capture and leaves the city. In the 1920s, Noodles leads a gang of him and his 3 friends, Patsy, Cockeye, and Dominic, performing jobs for local gangster Bugsy. They meet Max as he foils one of the robberies, but has the booty stolen from him by corrupt police officer Whitey. Max joins their gang, and they later blackmail Whitey and get the same police protection as Bugsy. Now, the gang eventually becomes successful liquor smugglers because of prohibition. They deposit their earnings in a locker, giving the key to a friend of theirs, Mo. Noodles is in love with Mo's sister, Deborah, who dreams of becoming a dancer, played by Jennifer Connelly, and later on by Elizabeth Montgomery. Now, due to his socialization as a gangster, Deborah sees no future for their love. Bugsy, now a rival, ambushes the gang and fatally shoots Dominic. Noodles kills Bugsy and is sentenced to prison. Upon his release a decade later, Noodles rejoins his gang. During a diamond heist, he used jewelry employee Carol as their informant. She goads Noodles into hitting her, after which he rapes her. She later becomes Max's girlfriend. Noodles realizes that the heist was commissioned by a syndicate figure to eliminate competition. This leads to tension between Max and Noodles, who seeks independence. The gang provides protection for teacher and union boss O'Donnell, during the course of which they exchange newborns at a clinic, punishing the head of the police whose wife had just given birth to a boy at that clinic. This results in the police withdrawing their actions against striking workers. Now, when Noodles takes Deborah on a lavish date, when she reveals her plans to pursue a career in Hollywood, he snaps and rapes her. As she departs the next day, he attempts to catch a glance of her sitting on a train, but she avoids eye contact. Now, the repeal of prohibition forces the gang to look for alternative activities. Max suggests a New York Federal Reserve Bank heist, which Noodles and Carol deem too risky. Carol convinced Noodles to inform the police about a lesser offense, hoping brief incarceration will cool off Max's ambitions. After Noodles calls the police, Max knocks him out. Upon regaining consciousness, Noodles learns that Max, Patsy, and Cockeye had been killed by the police during the heist, and as established at the beginning of the film. A guilt-ridden Noodles hides in the opium den. During subsequent escape, he realizes the locker money has disappeared. Now, flashing forward to the 60s, Noodles returns to Manhattan for the first time since the 30s after receiving a letter indicating that his identity is being uncovered, seeking to find out who is responsible. He learns that the bodies of his three friends have been relocated to Riverdale. He visits her mausoleum in Riverdale and finds a key to a railway locker. Now, the locker reveals a huge suitcase full of money, stated to be the advance on his next job. Noodles learns of the corruption scandals around Senator Christopher Bailey and visits Carol in a retirement home run by the Bailey Foundation. She tells him that Max manipulated them into tipping them off to the police and that Max opened fire first, wishing to die young. Noodles spots Deborah in a memorial photograph, who has become a major actress, and starts to suspect a connection between Deborah and Bailey. He tracks down Deborah and visits her, telling her about his invitation to a party at Bailey's mansion and challenges her to tell him about the mysterious job, as well as the identity of Bailey. Deborah admits to being Bailey's lover and begs Noodles to leave the city before facing hurtful revelations. Ignoring her advice, Noodles leaves her after seeing Bailey's son, who looks like the young Max. Noodles meets Bailey and turns out to be Max. Having faked his debt, Max stole the gang's money and reinvented himself as a self-made businessman. He also made Deborah his mistress, thus robbing Noodles of everything he had. Faced with ruin due to the corruption scandal, Max reveals that he's behind a mysterious job, which is for Noodles to kill him. Noodles refuses. As Noodles leaves the estate, a garbage truck passes and a man, presumably Max, walks towards Noodles until the truck passes between them. Noodles sees the truck's auger conveyor grinding garbage, but the man is nowhere to be seen. A lot of people feel he jumped in. Now, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people believe that the whole movie is a dream, because as the film begins and ends in 33 with Noodles hiding in an opium den from syndicate hitmen, there was the last shot of the film is of Noodles in a smiling opium-soaked high. The film can be interpreted as having been a drug-induced dream, with Noodles remembering his past and envisioning the future. In an interview by Noel Simsolo, published in 1987, Leone led support to interpretation, saying that the scene set in the 60s could have seen as being an opium dream of Noodles. In a DVD commentary for the film historian and critic Richard Scheichel states that opium users often report vivid dreams, and that these visions have a tendency to explore the user's past and future. Now, the ambiguity of the ending, where probably Max jumped in the garbage compactor or maybe didn't. There's a lot of good in this movie, but there's so many superfluous scenes, and some scenes go on and on. And if you would have found a way to tighten it a lot better. But the cast itself in this movie, ladies and gentlemen, is just friggin' tremendous. You had Elizabeth Government as the older version of the young Deborah, Joe Pesci, of all people, Burt Young, choose well, Treat Williams as the underused as the Teamster boss, Danny Aiello as Police Chief Vincent Aiello, Richard Bright as Chicken Joe, James Hayden as Patrick Patsy Goldberg, the up-and-coming William Forsythe as Cockeye, and the Estelle Harris, who plays a part role as Peggy's mother. Now, the production itself took a while to put together. Now, this is again part of the trilogy. Now, Leone had turned down an offer from Paramount Pictures to direct The Godfather in order to pursue his pet project, which was the third part here. At some point, Leone considered other colleagues, including Milos Forman and John Milius, for the role of director, with him just serving as producer. For some time, the project was linked to French producers André Geneves and Gerard Lavoie, and later to Gaumont, with Gerard Depardieu and Jean Gabin supposed to be the main actors. Now, acquiring the rights to the novel proved to be complicated, as of all people, Dan Curtis of Dark Shadows fame had bought the rights, who intended to shoot the film and refused various offers by Leone and by his backers to sell the rights. Curtis eventually transferred the rights to Alberto Grimaldi in exchange for $2 million to production of his film Burnt Offerings. Now, the script was worked by Leone and four or five of his co-workers. Why this movie doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen, it's too long. You should have divided it in two movies like The Godfather Saga 1 and 2. It's not a bad movie, but it takes a lot. There's a lot going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the only time is, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch this. It's got to be a lonely afternoon in the middle of snow and rainstorm. In Canada, it's on Hollywood Suite. I would check it out, but you're going to have to fast forward through certain scenes. But what really bothered me, the superfluous rape scenes involving the Choosy Well character, because it promotes kind of kinky rape sex, and where DeNiro is raping Elizabeth Montgomery's character, where she was basically the young ingenue of ordinary people in ragtime. It was quite shocking, and I think that's one of the two of the key scenes that was kicked out. Now, when it was released at Cannes, it received a 15-minute standing ovation. Now, in the United States, a heavily edited version of the film received a wide release in 894 theaters on June 1st, 1984, and grossed only $2.4 million during the opening weekend. It ended its box office run with a gross of just over $5.3 out of a $30 million budget. It became a box office bomb. Now, a expert on Leone's work, Christopher Frayling, said in his book on the movie that the movie's central gangs are all emotionally stunted, like small boys obsessed with their equipment who have no idea how to relate to flesh and blood women. Now, the USSR version, ladies and gentlemen, was rearranged for chronological order, and the film was split in two, with the two parts being shown as separate movies. One contained the childhood scenes, the other comprising the adulthood scenes. Despite the rearranging, no major scene deletions were made. So it should have been, again, ladies and gentlemen, in the rescreening of the restored version 2012 talked about it. But the 269-minute recreation in Italy under the supervision of Leone's children were basically shown in 2012. Now, if you can find the heavy restored version, I would attempt, if you can find it, the USA release first and then build up, because just like The Godfather in 1, 2, 3, there's a lot of key scenes left out. But when he works, Sergio Leone is Sergio Leone. But there's some scenes in here that went way too long. But Treat Williams is underused, Joe Pesci is underused, Burt Young gives a good walk on, and he basically what it is. He's just there to be shot by this Jewish gang. But the idea about thinking about Jewish gangs in 1920s, 30s New York, they were hoping for a lot of the Godfather fans. But a lot of people are fans of the Godfather would not be fans of this movie, because you need more than just one of the key Godfather cast to make a crime movie in the 1980s work, and it didn't do this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give it 2.5 stars out of 4. Let me know what you think if you've seen multiple versions. But again, gave a lot of people their first glimpse of Jennifer Connelly, made a very positive impression for the fans of Elizabeth Montgomery. De Niro is great, but James Woods is, the James Woods acting style can be really seen in this because he's just playing James Woods. But to see Pesci and De Niro in another movie before Goodfellas, which came out later on. What you should do, ladies and gentlemen, treat yourself. Raging Bull, Once Upon a Time in America, Goodfellas and Casino. Do a Pesci De Niro weekend. I think that's the best way to promote that. As compared to other criminal movies of the era, It's better, but compared to The Godfather of the 70s and other crime movies, it doesn't compare. There's a lot of flaws, but again, it's Leone. Everything's on the screen. He shot everything. There's no B-roll, ladies and gentlemen. Everything's on the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our vintage movie reviews, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe or share. Bye.